Hello and welcome to part 5 of our Photoshop video lesson on black and white. And here we're going to take a landscape like this and mimic the old school effect of shooting with infrared film. Now the cool thing about shooting with infrared is it takes green shots like this with lots of grass and green in the landscape, and it makes these areas look much lighter compared to non-organic things in the shot like the sky and the dark monolith, and that really helps the monolith stand out much more effectively against the green. And we can mimic this effect, of course, using Photoshop's commands. Let's kick off by dragging part 05 before into the Photoshop window, and that will then initially open up the file in the Camera Raw editor. And what we'll do then is click Open Image to open it up into the standard Photoshop editor, and that then gives us access to the handy Convert to Black and White command and its very useful infrared style, and that will be a good starting point for the infrared effect. So to do that, let's go to Enhance, go down to Convert to Black and White, and up pops the Convert to Black and White window, and we can see the before and after using the default scenic landscape style. If we go to infrared effect, we then get this distinctive light vegetation, and that is because basically the green channel has been boosted quite strongly to lighten up the greens, and you can see here that the greens have this kind of almost negative effect. Instead of being dark, they're nice and bright. And that's a good starting point, but we can boost that even more to give the greens a little bit more punch by dragging the slider a little bit further towards the right there. And if I move over it now, you can see I've given it a value of 162. So round about that should do the trick. It's kind of fiddly to see those numbers. You actually have to slide and change the adjustment first, then move over it to get a rough idea of the numbers. So it's not that user friendly, but it does the job. Okay, so when you've got this beginning effect for your infrared with a nice light vegetation, which is making this black monolith stand out much more effectively, then click OK to apply those settings. So we're on the way to creating our infrared film effect with this light vegetation. I'm just going to increase the contrast of the shot to increase the brightness of the greenery and darken the sky. And to do that, I'm going to use layers. Let's pop down to the layers palette by going to Window Layers, and then let's add an adjustment layer by clicking here and choosing levels. I can then target the shadows, midtones and highlights independently and get the effect that I want. So to brighten those highlights, those bright light bits of greenery, I'm going to drag this highlight slider to the left, and that's brightening up the highlights quite dramatically. I don't want to clip them too much, but I want to get on the verge of clipping just to get that glowing white vegetation effect that you get with infrared film. And to create a darker sky and darker shadows, let's go to the shadow slider, drag that to the right to around about a value of maybe 19 or so. There we go. And that gives us much darker shadows, a darker sky, and a much more striking contrast. Let's just hit Tab to show you the final image there with all of the infrared effect. Now, infrared film tends to lighten greenery in a shot, but we've also blown out the highlights in these clouds. So what we'll do is we'll just paint on the adjustment layers mask to try and protect those areas from being changed. To do that, I'm just going to close this adjustment layer for the moment. I'm going to grab the brush tool, choose a black brush by clicking here just to make sure the foreground color is black, and then I'm just going to take opacity down a wee bit for a more subtle effect, and then click on the mask, and as we spray black we just basically stop the adjustment layer from blowing out the highlights in the areas that we're spraying on. Let me just go and find these blown out clouds here and protect them from being adjusted, and that then allows us to change the grass when I turn the adjustment layer off, but it's not adjusting the clouds. So that is creating a more accurate infrared film effect where we're not affecting things like clouds, we're just going for the green areas of the grass and the plants. So that's the final infrared effect I want. I'm just going to hit Tab to get my floating windows back up again, click here in the top corner of the layers palette and merge visible to flatten the layer. I can then grab the spot healing brush tool and then use the Ctrl+ command to zoom in, hit the spacebar to grab the hand tool, and I can just click to remove some of these sensor spots that are showing up against the clear blue sky. Let's just grab that one up there. It's particularly naughty. There we are, nearly got rid of that, and this one here as well. Then finally, Z for the zoom tool, right click, fit on screen, and then you can see ones that we've missed as well. So let's grab the spot healing brush and grab these ones in the corners. So that is our infrared effect, and a little bit of dust busting at the end there to clean the sky up. So that's the end of part 5 of our black and white lesson. In part 6 we're going to move into Photoshop CS to look at some of the advanced ways to adjust tones in your black and white conversions based on the colours in the original shots.